claims the title as the ancestral home of motorsports. But the spiritual heart of contemporary Grand Prix is here in the geographical center of England. We are 2 hours from London, the Midlands, the country of England's Civil War in the 1600s, the land of Beckett and Shakespeare, the countryside contemporary in these times to Lady Di, Diana Spencer. We are near Silverstone, where in 1950, the first race for the World Championship was held, and where today on CBS Sports Saturday, 24 drivers from 13 countries renew the challenge of one of the world's fastest road racing circuits with the 1981 British Grand Prix. Good afternoon, I'm Ken Squire here at Silverstone, where the French-English rivalry is back to fever pitch as the French have planked two of their cars, the Team Renault cars, on the pole in the front row for this running of the British Grand Prix. Working with me again today is a gentleman who himself at one time held the pole position and was the fastest man at Silverstone, David Hobbs from Upper Boddington.
Back in antiquity, Kendall. Today, the pole position's at 148 miles an hour, making this the highest speed road racing facility in the world. Most race cars come here and they find 7 corners at Silverstone, but with continued development to the aerodynamics of these Formula One cars, those are just now 7 really high-speed sweeps. And this afternoon, we should see some extremely exciting, hopefully very close and extremely high-speed motor racing.
So stay tuned for our CBS Sports Saturday same-day satellite coverage of the British Grand Prix. 24 drivers in 14 different makes of cars ready for the start of the British Grand Prix. They are on the false grid. They will take one preliminary start before we officially get underway. With David Hobbs and Barry Gill in the pits for us today, I'm Ken Squire. The field beginning to roll out around this 2.9-mile course. And David, let's describe the course at this time.
Well, of course, this is now the fastest road racing course in the world. The pole position today, 111, that is 148.5 miles an hour. All those right-hand corners aren't anything like as sharp as that when you get out there. They're all in excess of 100 miles an hour. The only slowish one is the Woodcote chicane right under our box here. The course doesn't undulate much. It's very wide and it's a very flat surface, and it's the worst course in the world in the rain. The weather forecast calls for showers, though at the moment it's fairly warm and we've got hazy sunshine.
So the field continues its preliminary lap. Let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race. On the pole is Arnoux of France, 148 miles an hour, first time he's been there since Belgium. Beside him is Alain Prost, and that is his effort for a second win. Then starting third will be Nelson Piquet, well up in the points, currently second. Going in the 4th position today is Didier Pironi for Team Ferrari. Starting in the 5th position is John Watson of Belfast, Ireland, in the new McLaren. Then working in the 6th position is teammate Andre de Cesaris, who crashed this morning. They put the car back together. Then comes the defending world champion Alan Jones in row 4. And beside him is the French-Canadian Ferrari star Villeneuve, who's already won 2 Grand Prix this year. Moving back to row number 5, the current world point leader from Argentina, Carlos Reutemann in a Williams. And beside him will be Riccardo Patrese in the Arrows. Row 6, the 1978 world champion from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, Mario Andretti, and his teammate from Alfa Romeo, Bruno Giacomelli. In row number 7 is Mexico's Hector Rabac in the 2nd row, and the Frenchman Jacques Lafitte. Row 8 will be Patrick Tambay in the 2nd Ligier car, and Rosberg driving a Fittipaldi. Row 9 is Irishman Derek Daly in a March, and Siegfried Stohr. Row number 10 is the 24-year-old Michel Alboreto, and the French driver Jean-Pierre Jarier is taking over today in a Nacella. In row 11 is Sweden's Slim Borgard in a car sponsored by the rock group ABBA, and Ilio De Angelis in a Lotus, and there's a story there we'll tell you more about later. Finally, row 12, America's Eddie Cheever in a Tyrrell, and closing out the grid, the Swiss driver Mark Schurer in the car entered by Macau's Teddy Yip. The field coming up online, 24 strong for the start of the British Grand Prix, the 32nd running. No French driver has ever won this event, but for the 2nd straight year, French cars are on the pole. A year ago at Brands Hatch, we saw Ligier.
And Nelson Piquet's heart will be beating particularly fast because he's going to want to make a dynamite start to get around those two Renaults on this opening lap, because that's going to be his best shot, and try and pull out a lead on these heavily laden cars.
The turbos a little heavier at the start with extra fuel. Let's see what's going to happen as the Ferrari in the second row is ready to roll on the problem of Piquet trying to go up the middle. The French yellow turbos in front. Didier Pironi trying to make it 3 wide as they go for the first turn.
Piquet made a beautiful start, but so, for the first time, did both Renaults. Got off the line incredibly well with those turbo engines. Made a beautiful job of it. And there is one of the Renaults in the lead, and I think it's Alain Prost who started on the outside of the front row. There we see them swooping into Beckett's. This is one of the slower corners here, but they're still doing over 100 miles an hour. And in second place is Didier Pironi in the turbocharged Ferrari, who came up from the second row. There's the Renault in front. Pironi right behind them as they go down Hangler Straight. There's Alboreto going back to the pits after making a terrible start from the back, one of the back rows of the grid. There in the front, the Ferrari. Second in the Ferrari. The Renault in the lead. The field streams through Stowe. This is an incredibly fast corner now. These cars going around there at about 130 miles an hour. Both Ferraris in second and third position.
About to complete the first lap, and Didier Pironi with the Ferrari keeps it hung right in there. We have 6-cylinder cars out in front, the 1.5-liter machines, doing very well, holding down the first 3 positions. A second car off, one of the Arrows has come to naught, and that looks like the number 30 car, the Storer car.
And it is Alain Prost in the lead, the man who won the Dijon Grand Prix from France just 2 weeks ago on CBS, being hotly pursued by the 2 worst Ferraris. There he goes through Copse. Alain Prost going through Copse, closely followed by Pironi, who has his teammate Villeneuve all over him, and right behind him is the second Renault, driven by the pole sitter, René Arnoux, taking a wide line through that very fast Maggotts curve. And there in 5th position is Nelson Piquet, who at this particular juncture wishes he was a bit closer to the front.
Arnoux holding on to 4th position. Piquet is running in 5th. Running 6 is Alan Jones, and the 7th position currently is number 7, John Watson. Mario Andretti's car, number 22, lies 10th on the field, and Eddie Cheever is still well back, out of the top 20.
Cars sweeping through Stowe Corner on this downhill run to club, and there is Gilles Villeneuve trying to get underneath his teammate. If they're not careful, they have them both off. They in fact fouled that corner up, racing each other, and that allowed René Arnoux, the pole sitter in the second of the turbocharged Renault, to take away a position from, I think, Gilles Villeneuve. And here they are on the fastest part of the course, going under the traffic bridge into the Woodcote chicane.
Prost is first at the end of lap number 2. In second, Villeneuve. In third, Arnoux. 4th, Pironi. Running 5th, Piquet. 6th is Alan Jones. 7th is Watson.
In fact, it was Villeneuve who lost the position, and there is Pironi up in second spot. Using every inch of road, these cars with the aerodynamic downforce and the skirts, wide tyres, using every inch of this road and more. There's Derek
Daly coming in
the March, coming into the pit. That'll be a disappointment because they've qualified better than they have at any race this year.
Nelson Piquet continuing to hold on and trying to move through. He was the early favorite for this event, still in 5th place. And we asked Nelson Piquet before the race, where's the best place to overtake on this track?
Well, when you talk about the tubes, it's difficult because they are much quick in the straight. And if the corner is very fast, if you get very close of them in the corner, you have a lot of turbulence. You cannot close too much because you lose downforce and maybe you fly off. But, well, I hope we can find a way to overtake them in the first lap.
Prost stays in first, but a real battle continues for second place between Ferrari of Italy and the French Renault.
And there is Nelson Piquet coming up in the inside of that Ferrari as they come into the chicane, and I think Piquet has taken 4th spot away.
Piquet has taken 4th position. Nelson Piquet in the bottom is into 4th.
And Alan Jones is making ground on that Ferrari. The Ferrari having another go at Piquet as they go into Copse Corner. That Renault of Alain Prost still leads from the Ferrari of Gilles Villeneuve, from René Arnoux in the second of the Renaults, and right behind them is this mad scrabble for 4th place between the Ferrari of Didier Pironi, and there we see the blue and white car of Nelson Piquet. 27, the Ferrari there of Villeneuve, dropping back off the pace.
Prost in that 1.5-liter car, about 90 cubic inches, and look at it pull away, developing well over 500 horsepower, trying to make it 2 in a row for France and be the first Frenchman to ever win. This British Grand Prix.
And there we see René Arnoux sweeping through Stowe, who's now taken second position away. So now we have the Renaults lying first and second, just like they qualified, followed closely there by car number 28. That's Didier Pironi, being hounded by Nelson Piquet.
Piquet in the 4th position and maintaining 5th at the present time is car number 27, Villeneuve, with the 6th position still Alan Jones, and 7th, John Watson.
This isn't really how the scenario is supposed to unfold as far as Piquet was concerned, because the Renault's one disadvantage is that with the turbocharged engine using quite a lot of fuel, they
Out
start...
of control, spinning in the main straightaway and being tagged by Alan Jones.
It's Villeneuve, it's Ferrari, spins coming out of the chicane, goes through the catch fencing, and Alan Jones tags him, leaps out of his car.
Not only that, but Andre de Cesaris has crashed. We have 3 cars down as they came back onto the main straightaway to complete the lap. De Cesaris away, holding his helmet for a moment. He had no place to go. Alan Jones is out of it once again. The Williams team continue to have bad luck over the last 3 races. We're going to look at
There we
a
see
replay.
Villeneuve puts a wheel over the inside of that chicane, starts to spin, the back end goes away from him, round he goes. Alan Jones not deciding which way to go. De Cesaris into the catch fence, and in that cloud of smoke, Alan Jones just tags the back wheel of Villeneuve's Ferrari. Very disappointed for Jones. He made it go on the inside, which is the proper thing to do, but unfortunately Villeneuve's car went there. And Watson there, number 7, only just missed it. De Cesaris standing there, very disconsolate, crawling on his own accord, and in this afternoon's race, pushed out very, very unfortunately. And there we see the leader, Alain Prost in the Renault, the winner of the race 2 weeks ago in France, now closely followed by Nelson Piquet.
As Villeneuve comes in, we have 5 laps complete. The standings are in front, the French Renault team. It is Prost in first. Running in second, Arnoux. The 3rd position, Nelson Piquet. And working in 4th is Didier Pironi, while the 5th position is now Carlos Reutemann. And moving up into the 6th position overall is Mario Andretti of the United States. At the British Grand Prix, Nelson Piquet has crashed. We're still watching this battle between Carlos Reutemann and the Ferrari being driven by Didier Pironi, but late word is that the Piquet car, which had been sustaining that 3rd position, has gone off the course and has crashed hard. There you see the young Brazilian, Nelson Piquet, who came into this race with 2 wins this season, currently 2nd overall in the world standings. The real battle continues on the track, back in the 3rd, 4th position.
And John Watson, to the incredible applause of this massive crowd here, takes away 4th position from Carlos Reutemann, the current world champion leader, and he sets off the hound Didier Pironi in that turbocharged Ferrari. The crowd here erupted as John Watson, the only British driver in this race, took away that position from Reutemann and is now right behind Didier Pironi.
Ford Cosworth-powered McLaren closes on the turbo-powered Ferrari, and Watson moves in again. John Watson collects 3rd position.
John Watson in that new McLaren, made of a very advanced fiberglass, well, not a fiberglass technique, but carbon fiber. The whole monocoque is made of carbon fiber, and now he's got in front. He's going to try and put some daylight between himself and Reutemann, who's also passed Didier Pironi.
Seems like that Ferrari may be going off a bit here. Let's look
And
at
here we
replay
see
of
the
that
pass
mess.
again, going into the chicane. I'm sorry, going into Beckett's as he goes under that Ferrari. Just at the last second, Pironi gave him room. He wasn't going to, but in the end, he absolutely had to let Watson through.
So John Watson for McLaren goes to 3rd, and there you see the Ferrari expiring. Turbo problems on the Ferrari, and Ferrari is through for the day. The team that used to, in the old days, have so many great victories here, all their hopes go up in smoke this afternoon.
Boy, oh boy, that car is really finished for the day, and of course, we already know that Villeneuve's car is out of the race, having crashed here at the chicane. A disappointed Pironi qualified 4th round here at Silverstone, which is a very commendable effort. The Ferrari, not the best handling car there. We see the young Frenchman who last year, of course, was very exciting at Brands Hatch when we brought you coverage of the British Grand Prix from Brands in one of those Ligier cars. He changed teams this year and has been driving for Ferrari.
Didier Pironi, who was seeking his second career win. Will not have it today as John Watson, who is also seeking a second career win. There you see him, begins to try and hound those turbo-powered Renaults who stay in front. There is John Watson, who won for Roger Penske, Austria 1976. Gone through some very thin times with McLaren, but apparently they have this new car sorted out. And it is beginning to collect up these turbo-powered cars, numbers 15 and 16. Prost in first, Arnoux in second, here in the British Grand Prix.
But John Watson is a long, long way down. He got put out by that chicane accident earlier on. He was involved in it. He obviously lost a lot of time there going through there, and he's now about 3/4 of a minute to a minute behind. And there we see the ambulance crossing the track in front of the lead Renault. That looked to me to be a slightly dodgy maneuver, but he managed to pull it off all right. And there we see the leader, Alain Prost, who won the French Grand Prix just 2 weeks ago, looking for his second win, which would make a tremendous difference to his World Championship aspirations.
Still waiting for further word on Brazil's Nelson Piquet, who was running third when he crashed just moments ago. There is the car. Piquet is behind the fence. You can see some of the corner workers over there with him. Car has gone completely through the catch fence, David.
Looks like Beckett's to me, which is the sharpest corner here. It's a right-hand corner, about 100 miles an hour, and you can see it's ripped the left front wheel off, badly damaged the front of the car, and it is a very tricky corner, and as much as you approach it at tremendously high speed, and a lot of reliance is put on stopping, and it looks like he slid straight off. This is where young David Purley, some years ago, slid off in a similar car, a Formula One car, and is reputed to have sustained the highest injury, the highest G loadings on any person that's managed to survive it. They're talking about him going through something like 50 Gs on impact. But he's around to talk about it today, and let's hope Nelson is not too badly hurt there.
Meanwhile, the French team stays out in front. It is still Prost looking for his second straight victory. He won the French Grand Prix. Remember, the French have never won here in the British Grand Prix, although they have sat on the pole and collected the front row. They've never taken top honors. And this man, John Watson at number 7, or Argentina's Carlos Reutemann at number 2, or number 22, Andretti, who is very much in the hunt, now moving up to 5th place. They have other ideas about how this race will be decided today.
There we see one of the arrows. That's Riccardo Patrese being hounded here by Jacques Lafitte in the Ligier. And there we see Elio De Angelis and Hector Ribart in the Lotus and the other Brabham. Number 17, Derek Daly. Number 3, Eddie Cheever, the other American in the race. Behind him, Keiki Rosberg in the Fittipaldi, Borgard in the ATS, the Jarier Denim Osella.
One of the Renaults is pitting. It looks like the leader is coming in. Prost is bringing car number 15 down pit road. Something is amiss on one of the turbo-powered cars. The leader is now on pit road.
And who said the British weren't partisan? The grandstand erupted again in another absolute shriek of applause as this, the leader, pulled into the pits.
Arnoux now in first. John Watson moves to second. The interval is about 6.5 seconds to Watson. Then running third, Carlos Reutemann, about 20 car lengths back. Moving into the 4th position is Mario Andretti. And Andretti is off to one of the best days he's had since 1978. Prost, his car in, tire situation developing early on.
Well, this is the thing that people thought might happen. Of course, the tire war is back on again now. Goodyear have re-entered the fray of Grand Prix racing, and they're on the cars of the Brabham cars, the Williams cars, and the Lotuses, and these cars are on Michelin tires. There was a suspicion that they had a slightly softer compound, and if they did, it obviously backfired against them. There's Nelson Piquet sitting up on the stretcher. Thank goodness for that. He's obviously conscious. It could only be his legs, maybe, that are damaged. We don't know how badly, of course, but at least he was sitting up on that stretcher. What a pleasing sight that was. And there we see him folding his arms, so he's obviously okay. He's fully conscious. That's a great relief to everybody. Here we the new leader, of course, here, René Arnoux, who sat on the pole, now being closely followed by John Watson in second position.
Barry Gill, David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire, and you're watching Arnoux, now leading for Team Renault here in this event as they have completed 22 laps for this turbo-powered car. His teammate, Alan Prost, has gone back behind the wall, and he is out of competition. Apparently a full retiree now. They're having some difficulties with the car, and he is apparently retired. Second place belongs to the McLaren. John Watson is in second, while third overall lies the #1 man in points, Carlos Reutemann of Argentina, and moving to fourth is the 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo of Mario Andretti of the United States. Andretti on the rise, as is Elio De Angelis, still continuing to climb. He's moving up well. The Patrese car, that's another machine that's up to fifth. De Angelis is up to sixth in the latest standings. And Hector Rabach of Mexico is showing his seventh. So it's a big surprise here. But one of the major surprises is John Watson. Watson is now finding himself in second place and trying to chase down one of those turbos. We asked John Watson about the potential for turbo in this event. This is what John Watson told us.
I think they won't be able to run anything like as quick in the race as they did during qualifying, probably because they can adjust the boost on their engine. For the race, they will look for reliability, but even with reliability, they've still got a big horsepower advantage. But horsepower means more fuel, so they have to carry a lot more petrol. It's a 199-mile race, so they're going to have to fill their car right up to the neck. That means they're going to be harder on the tires, they're going to weigh more. And all these factors, which, you know, public maybe aren't quite aware of, play a very big part in how the car will be towards the end of the race.
John Watson in the second position here in the British Grand Prix. An early shunt, if you're just joining us, took out defending world champion Alan Jones, as well as the highly regarded French-Canadian Gilles Villeneuve and De Cesaris in the second McLaren car. They all came to not directly below our announce booth. They are out of the race, and it has moved several cars into contention, including Andretti. Andretti, who's only picked up 3 points this year, that in the very first event, which we saw at Long Beach, California, in this World Championship round, definitely on his way.
Well, following on the comments of John Watson there, I think probably the biggest surprise was just how fast those Renaults did go at the beginning of the race. Prost leapt into an immediate lead and pulled out a tremendous lead. The Renault of Arnoux didn't make quite such a good start. He got bogged down, but he soon picked off his opponents. And I think that'll probably be a bit of a surprise to some people because, as Watson says, they're carrying about 12 gallons more, 100 pounds more start line weight, which is a tremendous disadvantage. But even with that, they had enough power to pull themselves out of trouble, although it obviously has had its toll, not only on Alain Prost's car, but also on the turbocharged Ferrari of Didier Pironi. So now there's only one turbocharged car left. There we see Reutemann swinging neatly to that chicane, no wheels over any curbs, staying well clear of the edge of the road. Maybe he's not driving quite as hard as he might be able to, but then again, there's another 40-odd laps to go on this race, and he's probably trying to save himself for the end.
The British Grand Prix, one of the great traditions of motorsports. Earlier, Barry Gill took a look at what makes the British Grand Prix so very special.
Silverstone can claim a very special and privileged position in the history of motor racing. For it was here at this old bomber airfield right in the heart of Britain that the World Championship itself began way back in 1950. It was a right royal occasion. The late King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, now of course Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, were here to see history being made. It was the first time that a reigning sovereign had attended a British motor race, and the King climbed up a stepladder to get a better view at those farm buildings just round the corner there. What did he see? Well, he saw Giuseppe Farina win in an Alfa Romeo. He went on, of course, to become the first ever world champion. His average speed was 90 miles an hour. Silverstone has progressed to become the fastest track in Grand Prix racing. Today's race could see a 146-mile-an-hour lap. And British motor racing has progressed as well. In fact, it's fair to say that Britain is now the home of Grand Prix racing. Why? Because every weekend, somewhere in this country, racing of some sort is taking place. Half the cars on the grid use British technology. They're built in Britain. And they use parts from a myriad of tiny but expert suppliers. Somehow this country seems to breed teams. Lotus is second in success only to Ferrari. Colin Chapman began his team in his fiancée's garden shed, building a trials car. An Australian called Jack Brabham came here to seek his fame and fortune. He won 2 world championships for Cooper and then formed his own Brabham team, the team for which Nelson Piquet now drives. A New Zealander called Bruce McLaren won a scholarship to drive here. He became the youngest driver ever to win the American Grand Prix. And he founded Team McLaren, the team that's won Indianapolis, dominated Can-Am, and of course has John Watson on the grid today. Ken Tyrrell was a timber merchant. He discovered a young man called Jackie Stewart, won 3 world championships with his Tyrrell team. Now March, Arrows, Ensign, Tolman and the Theodore teams have joined the ranks. Even Emerson Fittipaldi builds his Brazilian-backed cars here. Britain just doesn't produce racing cars, it produces world champions, 6 in all, more than any other country. Men like Mike Hawthorne, the first Englishman to win a world championship. Graham Hill, the only man ever to have won Indianapolis, Le Mans and the world championship. Jim Clark, the Scottish sheep farmer, who was the first European to win Indianapolis, twice world champion. Jackie Stewart, of course, the man who won 3 world championships and has won more Grand Prix than any other. John Surtees, the only man ever to have won the world championship on 4 wheels and 2. And last but not least, James Hunt, the first mod world champion. No wonder that many people regard Silverstone as the Mecca of motorsport. No wonder that 100,000 people will make a pilgrimage here this weekend.
There is Prost car, number 15, by the wayside. He was the early leader. His teammate, Arnoux, now runs up in front, and Mario Andretti of the United States stays 4th. Now let's go to New York, and Brent Musburger with more sports news of this Saturday. One taking out 3 cars, Villeneuve-Jones, De Cesare, right here near the start-finish line. And then later, Nelson Piquet, while running in 3rd position, crashed his automobile. We're still waiting for a hospital update. There you see the remains of the De Cesare McLaren as it came to naught, coming through the chicane. Been a hard afternoon on equipment, but there have been some other surprising stories. For instance, note this. Car number 33, being driven by Mark Schur, started dead last in the 24th position and is now being shown 8th overall. A great run for the young Swiss driver in the Theodore car. And there is John Watson, still bearing down, trying to gain some ground back on the Renault, which stays in front. Remember that Renault won in the French Grand Prix the last time we were with you, and right now Arnoux is seeking an opportunity to do what his young teammate did in France. France never having won this British Grand Prix. John Watson trying very much to take it back for them. There you see the 6th place car of Lafitte. For Mario Andretti back in 5th, it's a little better today, but it has been a hard past 2 years, as we found out in this report. Few race drivers have captured the American imagination like the 1978 world champion, Nazareth, Pennsylvania's Mario Andretti. His versatility has seen him win at Daytona, at Indianapolis, 12 times recorded wins on the Grand Prix circuit. But the last victory was Holland, 1978. A change of teams from Lotus to Alfa Romeo has not changed his fortunes. A hard thing for a man of Andretti's spirit to accept.
I just feel that we got messed up quite a bit by the changes in regulations, because the way the car was last year, right at the end of the season, there's no way that car couldn't have been a front runner, absolutely competitive. There was a change on the tire scene, which also hurt, because the car just wasn't designed for that. And unfortunately, they didn't catch up to that. And the season goes on, and, you know, the old saga, you're just playing catching up.
After 20 years of the success and failures that go with motorsports over that span, does it get any easier to handle the valleys when they come along as they have this year?
No, not really. It's even worse, because you've been there, you've been winning, you know what it feels like, and to accept less is, no, it's nothing you can really console yourself with.
We once conversed about how you might want to wrap it all up, and that would be to race with your son, Michael, at Le Mans. Is that still a possibility?
Oh, yes, very much so. Michael is really coming along. I don't want to be guilty in rushing him. I'm going to try to be a good judge and knowing when I think he's ready, but it could be as much as next year.
Come the day when you finally take off the helmet, what do you see yourself doing?
I have other business interests that Well, I'm not very excited over it. I mean, to compare with what I'm doing, but it's going to become more interesting, I suppose, once I do slow down in this area. But I'm not at a loss. I'll have plenty to do.
Mario Andretti running in fifth, about to be overtaken and left by the leader, Arnoux. Meanwhile, down on pit road, the starter has brought in Elio De Angelis in the Lotus car, and De Angelis has evacuated the machine. A lot of activity down there. Look at Andretti still fighting there, trying to keep from being lapped.
Well, De Angelis has got back to Colin Chapman now, and there's a fairly heated discussion going on, but nothing like the discussion that went on a few moments ago. For some reason or other, De Angelis was stopped at the start-finish line in pit lane. He was waving at the clerk of the course, and in fact, in the end, he sort of looked like he was going to punch him on the nose and leapt out of the car and stalked off, and the officials had to push the car out of the way. I don't know what's going on down there, though.
Andretti now going a lap down. It is a miserable weekend for Chapman and Team Lotus. Barry Gill is standing by with Colin Chapman right now. Let's go to the pits.
I've never known this happen before in motor racing. Apparently he was black flagged because they felt that he didn't respect a yellow flag about 10 laps sooner. But normally, of course, if you're going to black flag a car, you get the team to do the black flagging, and only then, if the team doesn't black flag, then the stewards do it. I've never heard of this before. I just can't believe it. There's no way he should have been black flagged on the start line like that. Surely what normally happens is you have a minute's penalty, isn't that right, Colin? No, normally it's an admonition. They slow the car down, talk to him, tell him he's been a naughty boy, and then let him go. Not make him exclude him from the race like this. That's crazy.
Well, this puts the cap on what Chapman has called his most disappointing weekend in 25 years of Grand Prix. His new Lotus 88 car was disallowed. He went back, put together two 87s, and one of those two cars did not qualify, and now this. Arnoux continues to lead. We'll be back in a moment. This Grand Prix, John Watson lies second to the French team, with Arnoux continuing to lead. In the third spot is Carlos Reutemann, running fourth of Patrese. There is Hector Rabac of Mexico. His teammate has cracked a bone in his leg, Nelson Piquet, when he crashed while running in third position. There's the leader, Arnoux, in that turbo-powered car.
Arnoux has just turned the fastest lap of this race in a 1:15, or just a hair over 140 miles an hour. So you can expect the average of this race to be somewhere around about 138, 139 miles an hour. An extremely fast clip for a road course.
Lying fifth on the field, Mario Andretti with the Alfa team. Andretti is fifth, and the Tyrrell team with Eddie Cheever, the other American, is running in seventh. Sandwiched in between those two is Mark Schur.
Mark Schur has done an incredible job pulling back from absolutely dead last in this field. Obviously, I know he's a very good driver because I allowed him to drive with me last week in the Watkins Glen 6-hour back in the States.
Hector Rabac, in fact, he had to pit earlier. John Watson driving a brand new McLaren car. Barry Gill took a look at the car and the aerospace equipment that is now equipped in Formula One racing.
Motor racing is, of course, a space-age sport. The cars look like aerodynamic missiles, and the drivers like astronauts, especially with those life support systems feeding into those bulbous helmets. But no car owes more to the space age than the Marlboro McLaren. It may look like an ordinary car, but believe it or not, the only metal that matters in this car is in the suspension. The rest of it is graphite composite structure. It's a long word to describe this sort of material. It was developed by the Hercules Aerospace Division for the Columbia Space Shuttle. And the Marlboro designer John Barnard wanted a material that was light but very rigid, because that helps the car with its road holding because it doesn't flex. So this then is America's space-age contribution to John Watson's hopes for a home victory. Let's hope that John Barnard and the other designers don't go the whole hog and replace the drivers altogether with computer silicone chips.
Right now, John Watson is lying in a very secure second place as Hector Rabac has actually taken back a lap off the leader. Is the leader slowing down?
The leader's engine sounded amiss the last time by. Arnou's engine definitely sounded like it was coming down a bit, and you can see Andretti begin to close up on the leader. Remember that Arnoux took a lap from Andretti just a few moments ago, and it now looks like Andretti is catching him up, and there may be trouble on the lead car.
He's definitely in trouble. Hector Ibarkin, the second worst Brabham, is pulling away from René Arnoux in that Renault as he comes up under the fastest part of the course into the chicane right underneath the commentary box here.
John Watson lies second, about 23 seconds back. And definitely the turbo sounds sick.
Yeah, the engine's sounding very, very rough. It sounds like it's either gone down on one cylinder or it has a severe misfire. So I'd expect that René Arnoux will be pulling into that pit any minute now.
A lot of concern there. John Watson, here's your man in second place. He said earlier about the tension, about an hour before I leave for the start, I put blinkers on and just shut everything out. There's a buildup of nervous tension that's all being released now as he continues to look for his second win in Grand Prix competition. And what a great day it would be for this English team of McLaren.
Well, with only 15 laps to go, obviously the chances of things going wrong are beginning to get cut down now, and John Watson's heart will be in his mouth when he gets a pit signal next time round that the Renault is in trouble.
And there you see the Renault dropping back a bit more, and here's Andretti pulling up to get that lap back. Mario Andretti with the 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo looking for his 13th win. He's been looking a long time. Tied with Reutemann at 12 each.
Well, John Watson's done 115 Grand Prix. Of course, he only had one win, which was back in Austria in 1973. For Roger Penske, of course, the well-known American entrant. So he'll be looking very anxiously for his second win, and particularly right here in front of his home crowd. It so often is the way that drivers, for some reason or other, win a Grand Prix, a very important Grand Prix to them in front of their home crowd.
Here's Andretti closing once again. Moving in, trying to get that lap back, and definitely gaining ground is Watson. It's down to about 15 seconds between first and second.
Well, Watson will have had a pit signal then, and he'll see that cap decreasing as they put it out on his pit board. So now he'll be driving very hard, but on the same token, he'll be trying to make sure that he finishes this race. He won't be taking any unnecessary steps, because he probably saw a fairly healthy chunk come off that lap then. There goes Mario, round the turbo Renault. Down into Stowe, fastest part of the course, bobbing and weaving and bouncing on the suspension there. It's a little bit rough on the approach. Up over the crest as they just go past J Effects, use all the road, and on the slight downhill run to Club Corner. Very fast right-hand sweep. There we see them going into that corner.
The 41-year-old veteran Mario Andretti trying to put things back together for a win. And he still feels it can be done by this team this year. They brought a new car here, but didn't have an opportunity to really shake it down. It arrived on Thursday about 4 o'clock in the morning. And they feel that by the time they get to Austria, they should be well back in the hunt at the front, not in the middle of the field.
Arnoux going through the chicane as John Watson comes into sight under the bridge. He's knocking up about 4 seconds a lap here. It will be no time at all before he catches up with René Arnoux, who must be feeling at the moment in the pit of despair.
We'll be back with more of the British Grand Prix as Arnoux tries to fend off Watson in a moment. The British Grand Prix, it is a battle for the lead. Arnoux in the Renault is in front, but John Watson is right behind him in number 7. Coming down into the final laps of this 32nd running of this World Championship race. The turbo-powered Renault is in trouble, and reeling in that yellow, black, and white leader is John Watson in the McLaren. He's closed the ground, brought up the distance. John Watson, looking for his first win since Austria 1976, is there. Watson closes. They come into the chicane. 85,000 plus are on their feet as John Watson closes ground. Meanwhile, Andretti is slowing down as he came down the line that time. Battle for the lead.
Watson trying to go underneath him at Cox, but poor René Arnoux having none of that. The crowd here going absolutely ecstatic as Watson pulls alongside him as they go through that very fast left-hand curve, Maggotts, into Beckett's, the corner that claimed Nelson Piquet, and now puts John Watson in the lead of the British Grand Prix.
John Watson in command. This morning he said the target today is to win. That means doing everything a little bit better than anyone else. If I benefit by others' misfortune and take the flag ahead of the field, that's coming first. I want to win my way for self-gratification, which is part of the appeal of motor racing.
There you see the crowd down at Stowe, absolutely ecstatic as John Watson from Northern Ireland leads this, the British Grand Prix. Hopefully his second ever career win out of 115 starts.
Mario Andretti in trouble and out. We saw him slowing down as he came by us the last time. And Mario Andretti, who had run the 12-cylinder Alfa Romeo all the way up into 4th position, then it slipped back to 5th, is now officially retiring from the event. And misfortune continues to crowd Andretti. But for John Watson, the cheers must be ringing in his ears over the sound of that V8 Ford Cosworth. And for Teddy Mayer and Team McLaren, if it can stay together, what a magnificent thing for them to come back and win in the British Grand Prix.
Well, with just 8 laps to go, John Watson's heart will be in his mouth now. He'll be driving very carefully. He knows that Arnoux can't pass him anymore. Arnoux's car's too sick. It's just up to John now not to make any mistakes.
The last time a McLaren won the British Grand Prix, 1977, James Hunt in a Ford Cosworth, the old M26. But it's a whole new story today. John Watson. Today he has the staying power, the ability, and that grace, that delicate touch, so essential in Formula One racing to put it all together. And here he is coming back in the last part of the race as the turbo-powered cars are all coming to problems here. The last of them is now back in second with Arnoux, and it now appears that the French will be kept from winning the British Grand Prix still another time.
Well, John Watson has a lot of finesse, and so does that car of his, made of that space-age material like you saw earlier, and it's the cleanest, sweetest, neatest looking car here, and it obviously handles extremely well. You watch him through the chicane here. It doesn't even clip the curb, and that is a great credit to that car and, of course, to the driver. The Union Jacks are out. The crowd's going mad. They'll all go home happy. Of course, it's going to take them about 10 or 12 hours to get out of the place, but when they do, they'll all be talking about this for weeks.
Well, England may be having its economic problems, and there may be 3 million unemployed, but somehow well over 85,000 today, 120,000 this weekend, have scraped together that $25 to get in here, $50 to sit in the grandstand, and for England right now, it is well worth it. As McLaren is out in front, John Watson in the lead. Will be back with a finish in a moment. Nelson Piquet running in 3rd place, has a crack in a bone in his left leg. The other car, the Hector Ribach car, has had problems throughout the afternoon. But for McLaren, who's had the most difficulty, Teddy Mayer in particular, it's all gathering back. And I'll tell you, this Grand Prix season is really turning around. The Renaults have won in France. The McLaren is making this great comeback here this afternoon.
It's been one of the most competitive seasons ever, of course, with the turbocharged Ferrari of Villeneuve winning 2 races. Now it looks as if Watson's going to win 1. As you say, the Renault's won 1, the Brabhams have won 2, and the Williams cars have won 2 races. The Williams driver, Carlos Reutemann, currently running in 3rd spot in this race, still leads the World Championship, and these points are going to help him enormously today.
The turbo is going down in the main straightaway. The Renault is slowing down as it came across the line with the laps running out. Arnoux is slowing and I believe coming to a halt.
Well, it's going to go into the pit straight car parking lot, which already holds the car of Mario Andretti and poor old Mark Shearer, who had come from dead last to running in an incredible 8th position. What a great day he had until just 5 minutes ago. And here's René Arnoux, led the race most of the way, pulling the car off the track.
Arnoux not going to win his 3rd Grand Prix today.
And that puts Reutemann up to 2nd. It's going to give him 6 more points in the World Championship, which will put him from 37 to 42 points, putting him in at this stage in the season in an incredibly strong position, because nobody else seems to be able to put the races together and win enough to get those points off him. There is Carlos Reutemann, really leading the championship very handily now, because the people that are going to come 1st and 3rd in this race are really not in contention for the World Championship at the moment.
A 3-car shunt early on put his teammate, defending world champion Alan Jones, out of competition, as well as Villeneuve and De Cesaris. All 3 right here near the start-finish line. You can see the De Cesaris car there just in the catch fencing. John Watson in front. Team McLaren very much back in the hunt again after some very, very thin years.
Well, that's right. Of course, they've had some very good years as well. Of course, Johnny Rutherford won Indianapolis twice for them in McLaren cars. And, of course, they've won the World Championship twice. Once with Emerson Fittipaldi and once with James Hunt. And there we see John Watson up in the top corner of the screen there, on his way to what looks like a certain victory. And there's somebody else off the road there. just on that corner there, Chapel curve, the very fast curve. There was a car there smoking. Not sure who it was yet. But John Watson, with just 2 laps to go in this British Grand Prix, looks like taking his second career victory out of 116 starts. Now he's using less road. He's got no real close, and it's Riccardo Patrese, who was lying in a very comfortable 4th spot. What a blow for him with just 2.5 laps to go out of the race.
He had come to 3rd position just moments ago with the latest retirement of Andretti, but now it's all over for Patrese. John Watson. This is the 199th Grand Prix race for Team McLaren. They have not won a Formula One race since James Hunt in Japan, 1977. This will be their 25th win if Team McLaren holds together over the final moments. Meanwhile, pulling up into a scoring position for the United States, Eddie Cheever for Tyrrell. He's in 6th.
Eddie Cheever's also driven a very good race because he started off on the back row at 1, and here he is going to end up getting a point for himself in the Tyrrell car. Unfortunately, he's not using the brand new Tyrrell. He had a rather nasty accident in that on Thursday and wrote it off, but that was looking quite good, and obviously at the next Grand Prix they'll have that car out again.
So reviewing the standings as we work these final moments of the British Grand Prix, it remains the race of John Watson in 1st place for Team McLaren. 2nd, Reutemann, getting a handy advantage on the World Championship. 3rd goes right now to Lafitte, and then moving up into the 4th position overall will come car number 3, Eddie Cheever. Up 2 more spots. Now Cheever in 4th. This is going to be a terrific day for Ken Tyrrell, and they've had their problems in the past few years.
Well, Eddie Cheever so far this year has scored 5 points, so this will make quite an advance for him because he's going to get another 4 today, and that'll jump him up to about 9th position in the World Championship standings. Reutemann's going to end up with 42 points, and he'll be over 22 clear of this man, John Watson, who's going to win, or say he's going to win this race, who should be taking the checkered flag in just another lap and a half.
Strange story. You know, they have legalized gambling here on Grand Prix racing today, and I think Cheever went off at about 100 to 1. And with the attrition rate building as it is, the young driver who was such a bear in Formula 3 competition, he could very well make the odds makers very unhappy.
Well, I wish I put 100 quid on Watson. He was about 6 to 1. And I think this is, in fact, the last lap. We're coming up to the checkered flag.
So down for the finish comes John Watson, Team McLaren, car number 7. There's Arnoux, looking heartbroken after this great effort today.
What a disappointment.
John Watson, such a long wait, such a glorious day. The rain has failed to fall. Nothing has come down on his parade, and this crowd cheering as he comes by, waving the British colors for the last lap for John Watson.
Going through Club Corner, up through the left-hand sweep, Abbey there, up to the fastest part of the course. He goes under the traffic bridge, into the chicane for the last time. The crowd here absolutely erupting, going mad as Watson swings that beautiful little McLaren through the chicane and takes the checkered flag for his 2nd ever career victory and his 1st in the British Grand Prix.
John Watson is the winner. Carlos Reutemann will finish in 2nd. Jacques Lafitte will be credited with 3rd, and the other American, Eddie Cheever, Phoenix, Arizona, now living in Monte Carlo for Team Tyrrell, will finish 4th overall today, and 5th is going to go to Mexico's Hector Rabach. With all of his problems, he's still going to finish in the 5th position. We'll be back with the winner's interview. Coming up, more sports news with Brent Musburger.